Yes, didn't you say? She said I must start singing. Now she's saying I must stop singing. I don't know now. Do you want me to sing or don't you want me to sing, Penny? Because I sing very well, you know. Thank you. So let's go to set 2, Budi, and then let's start playing that. So I'm here to move the food so that we can hear better. Are you winning? You can start. Set 2. So, go na le kgosigadi mo ne? Can you see kgosigadi? Not set 3. Because we're still going to boogie. We're going to still take it to Destiny. We're going to still take it to Mafigizolo. Let me come help you. Let me help you. No. You went to the wrong one. Okay, cool. That's the one. Yeah, so let's start with that. So do you remember the song that I told you that I'm teaching you that is dedicated to the ladies? You can start the song, put it. That's the one we're going to start with. The one more nearly rehearse. Batung, ladies. That's the one we're starting with. Come on now, I was paid for this, you know. So if you don't give me the attention, it's not my problem. You know, increase your volume, dude. Woza. La khopula ke le jwetsa hore ere mosadi khosi hadi tulo ena ke ya hao. La khopula ne? Okay. Jwale ka khanya ia letsatsi utlisa tshepo mathaana jwale ka ngwedi le dinaledi wena utlisa lesedi. Come on now, mosadi khosi hadi tulo enakia. I know you just ate. Come on, mosadi khosi hadi. Oh, tulo enakia how kiriche hasi poso impakitsibo che hasi muhlolo naha itletsi lirato ki wena mme le matsole o khabisa setjhabeng mole le mole ke mantswe ya hao seriti sa hao ke sa bokgosi le fakanete o khosi hadi o musadi o khosi hadi. Ladies, I'm here for you, you know. You got to move a bit. The food, you know. Oh, 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 oh. Hey, hey. Yeah, bo. Yes. Come on. Because we are ladies and we're sexy and we're gorgeous and we can do the things and we can apply. Guy, my microphone, man, my microphone is failing me. Keeps shutting off. Umusadi, ukhosihadi, oh, Musadi, Musadi, ukhosihadi, oh, Musadi, ukhosihadi, yeah. Kirtulo enakia ukhosihadi Tolo ena Oh Musadi ukhosihadi Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Do I do another song, Penny? Okay, do you want another song? But this time, selector, you must stop it if they do not dance. I gave them a chance. No? No, nginiphile chance you warm up. If you don't stand up and dance, then selector, we stop the song and I go sit down and I listen to the gorgeous speeches. Come on. Oh, zanabangani bakho. Iyole. Oh, yizo zeni lezi. Ta 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 ta. Eh. Ayikafika. Iphi chance. Kaningena wabudi mna ngihamba nawe. Wabudi mna ngihamba nawe. Wabudi mna ngihamba nawe. Wabudi mna ngihamba. What? Aibo ngithanda ngalowe ukudla ngakhona ayisuka mna ngihamba na yebo engihamba nawe webhuti mna ngihamba nawe webhuti ngihamba nawe. Nasi stage guys, la guys. Yes, yebo ayebo. Wozani bafethu, wozani. Asenze. Come on. Yes. Hey, 2, 3. Asijike. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yebo. All right. Naye enja. Halal. Ba. Ngafika endaweni kwelabantu bewufaka ibanam unxibe ibanam ngathi loya lobhuti loya izobisokalame ayoyoyo ngafika endaweni kwelabantu bewufaka ibanam unxibe ibanam ngathi loya lobhuti loya izobisokalame engihamba nawe Mukeliyeza phela in the green dress. Hose. Yes. Yeah. Zaga. Ebo! Kupotlon ruta tu. kopa o tlo nruta tu. Kopa o tlo nruta tu. Ke batla o ba current. Ke a kopa a re ba ruta. Itla fast. Itla fela pina man itla. Wos. Keo re etsa so kaofela bafethu. Hey. Nazo, 1, 2, 3, goes. Zaga. Yabona musne. Again. Zaga. Engamba nawe. Yebo. Nazo. Weputi mnangihamba nawe. Weputi mnangihamba nawe. Yay! Ayebo. Yeah. Dala mabebeza. Yebo! Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies. I didn't want you guys to say that you ate and then we didn't let you guys exercise a little bit for the food, to help with digestion. So, Nibuile, ne? Are you back? So before we went for the break, I asked you guys to write some questions. Okay, I'm gonna keep quiet and listen to you guys. Okay, thanks. So before we went to a break, I asked you guys to submit some questions, and we still have a few presentations that are going to come, but I don't want to lose the momentum and the energy that is still in the room. DM, you said that you want this to be a robust discussion. It's a round table, So let's pretend that we're all sitting in one round table and we're all allowed to voice out questions and things that we think are important to discuss. I think in the morning, the presentations that happened with the keynote as well, we heard from the current chair of SANWIT as well. So really what we want to try and discuss and bring all those experiences and look at the risk factors that are important that Mem shared before we went to the break, and as well as like what that means for the opportunities that are there. So I'm not going to waste much time. I'm going to call my first panel. I'm going to ask Moira to come through to be on the panel. Current summit chairperson. I'm going to ask her to be joined by Sibongile Sambo. If she can, Sibongile Sambo to come and join that panel. And then I'm also going to, Miss Mpumi is not with us anymore, right? She's left. I don't know if, is Tapo Lechari still here? No? Please. She is a CEO for the Railway Safety Regulator. So this panel is going to be a mix. So we've got regulators, we've got industry experts. Yes. Yeah, industry experts. Yeah, and you also come in. So I'm trying to make it as diverse as possible. Myra. Sibongile. Yeah, you can all share there. I think I need to add one person because now Mrs. Mpofu is not here with us anymore. She had to run off. Okay, I think for now, while they sort that out, let me consult with DDG. Who should I add on that list? DDG? While they get their mics on. All right, I'm going to ask Lihlohonolo Memeza, acting CEO of SANROL, to join in on this panel as well, just for good measure. Thank you. Okay. I know all three of you are mic'd, except for Lihlohonolo. You've got a handheld mic. Will you? Yes, you can use that handheld mic. So I'm going to start from the other end with you, Sibongile. Just on top, a 2-minute introduction of yourself. What do you do in the space of transport?
Good afternoon, everyone. Deputy Minister, the DPG, with every protocol observed. Okay, my name is Sibongile Sambo. I run various businesses in aerospace. The initial business that I started in 2004, that's 18 years ago, is called SRS Aviation. Those are my initials, Sibongile Rejoice Sambo. We are based at Lanseria. We've been providing private jets and helicopters for passengers and for cargo, and we travel all over the world. Then as time went on, we diversified our business offerings and opened a manufacturing company. We have a manufacturing company based in Centurion, where we manufacture elementary parts for Boeing and Airbus. We supply via a first-tier supplier that is also based here in Pretoria. Also, currently on the 23rd of September at the AAD, the Aerospace and Defense Expo that's coming up, from the 21st to the 25th of September, we will be launching a school, a technical school called Jonzo Technical Academy. I've got one of the youngsters that will be managing that company, Mulalo. She's right there at the back. She's youth and a qualified aircraft structures technician. Thank you.
Thank you. Moira?
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Moira Krieger, interim chairperson of SANWIT. I've been in the taxi industry for the last 34 years. And, or shall I rather say, I'm married into a transport family. And then my father-in-law was a casualty of this industry. I was married for 3 years when he passed on. And we had to take over that legacy. And you know what the irony of the situation is? I married into this transport family. But I'm the only one currently in the family in transport. So I made sure that my father-in-law's legacy didn't die with him, because he was at the tender age of 23, he was one of the most successful businessmen, black businessmen in transport. And he was born in Neisner. And when he applied for an operating license, a bus operating license, because he was, at the time, he had transporting logs, and saw a need for public transport, and that was way back in the apartheid years. They told him that there's enough trucks to transport our people. So in other words, they were good enough to stand like animals on trucks being transported. And that same young man, he pursued transport, and he made sure that he was a formidable force. And the unfortunate thing about the taxi industry is when you are too prominent and successful, then you need to be taken out because someone else wants to succeed you. So, but I've made sure that his legacy is never going to die, not as long as I have breath. Yeah. And then I have to tell you this. I run school holiday programs. And I make sure that our children knows. Work with all 26 sector education and training authorities to ensure that our children gets the opportunities or knows about the opportunities out there. And even for those youngsters that think they are not good enough or they have fallen by the wayside because they couldn't make it to matric, that is why we have TVETs. And that is where our children that is where our youth needs to invest their energies in when they're never going to make it to matric. Because every one of us, irrespective of who you are, you have talents that no one else has. And if you don't take those talents and develop it to its full potential, you're never going to know what you could become.
Thank you. Okay, so, and I'm going to go to Lehlohonolo Memeza, acting CEO of SANRAL. Yeah, introduction.
If I don't break it. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Since I came this morning, I wanted to tell each and every one of you how beautiful you are. You're so bright, you're so beautiful, the beautiful hats, the fascinators, you all look amazing. As the program director has already said, my name is Lehlohonolo Memeza. I'm the acting CEO for SANRAL. Those who don't know what SANRAL is, it's a South African National Road Agency Limited. And we do report to the Department of Transport. And what we're responsible for is for the planning, the design, the construction, and the maintenance of national roads. And if you know, the SANRAL motto is beyond roads. So we offer more than roads. We don't just build the roads and infrastructure related to roads. But you'll see in my later presentation, I'll go in detail. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. And yes, that's Tepo. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
This is on.
Yeah, I think it's on.
Okay, good. I'm Tepo Khare. I am the CEO of the Railway Safety Regulator. We've just recently rebranded because we had blue colors and everybody confused us with PRASA. Okay. So we were almost like, okay, no, Tara. we are the Railway Safety Regulator, so we've taken similar colors to this. I have a background in civil engineering and in transport. I have been in the transport sector for many years, since I graduated, basically. And, you know, today for me is actually, I was just reflecting on the journey I've walked as a female within the sector. Many years ago, when I was still very young, I lived in Addis Ababa. I worked for the African Union Commission within their infrastructure department. And I remember whenever there were discussions around gender, everybody in the department would say, Tsepo, you go represent us. And I'd get offended, because it'd say, well, because I'm a woman, I'm not very gender-centric. This was me, because I think civil engineering, I rock, right? So I don't need other women to help me progress the career. You know, a very young, immature girl. But sitting here today, and I know that I'm here because of many women who have supported my career, the DM being extremely pivotal. You know, I say, when we talk women empowerment, sometimes we play lip service to it. The Deputy Minister of Transport is unwavering. It is the one thing that I know she feels very strongly about. And when I was invited to this, I thought I should say, ma'am, you don't know the difference you make in our lives. Sometimes it's not obvious, it's not talked about, but I know that there's a lot of, not just as a role model, but also as someone, I think as CEOs in the transport sector can actually talk to. We know you've got our interest at heart. And I reflected on that young girl who in Addis Ababa was just really irritated that they've asked me to go talk. And in fact, I remember some of the older women, they were saying, you young girls must be very grateful because we paved the path. And I'm like,
self-made.
paved the path.
I'm self-made.
But today, I actually, having walked the journey, having experienced the difficulties as a professional, but now I'm also aware in business. I was HOD in the Eastern Cape, and I know I've interacted with SANWIT over the many years that I've been in the sector. So I think today is a day that we do get an opportunity to reflect on where we've come from, where we are. I think there's still a lot of work for us to do, but we are all here. We're still breathing, and I'm sure we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Tsepo. So the floor is open for any questions, but initially I'd asked you guys to submit some of your questions. But I'm going to start with the questions that came from the department, really to say, really today is about reflecting where SANWIT comes from, but also to look at the challenges that women in the transport sector have to deal with. And this question can be very rhetorical, and I think we sometimes get tired of it being asked. With everything that's been discussed here, and Moira earlier on spoke to that, if there is no space in the table, go get a chair in the kitchen, you know. What do you think is women's contribution to the transport sector? And what is it that women need, you know, what would you say in the different spaces that you're in, you bring there, and what is it that is needed for women to be able to succeed in those spaces? I can start at aviation.
Okay.
Right in the air.
Okay, thank you once again. I think for us as women in the transport sector, it's very important that we mentor and coach young people. Ever since I started SRS Aviation, I've never traveled alone. I remember Tendi was my sister sitting there at the back as well. I started SRS with her. And she used to bring a friend to the office, Susanke. And she used to be very active. When she visits the office, you will swear she's employed. And she will make tea for my visitors when I've got meetings, clean and all that. And I saw potential in her. All of us didn't have an aviation background. And she came from Soweto. I asked her one day, do you want to become a pilot? And she said, I've never been in an aeroplane, but yes, I want to become a pilot. So I sent her for pilot training. She holds a private pilot license. Yeah, unfortunately she didn't complete to go to commercial, but the fact that she holds a private pilot license means she managed to go solo and pass that whole curriculum. And there have been other young women that I've empowered. Murungwa is one of them. She currently flies for another charter company at the moment that has got projects all over Africa. For many years, she completed her training commercial pilot license, but didn't get access, to the industry. I also took her into SRS Aviation, and other companies managed to see her. Once you get an opportunity, even if it's small, give that opportunity or accept that opportunity, because you never know which other doors that opportunity is going to open for you. Right now, she can go and fly for any airline because she has gained those number of hours required to move from a small company into an airline. That is not all. I've mentioned Umulalo. Umulalo, I would like you to stand. I want them to see you. Umulalo, I met him. Thank you. Umulalo, I met her. She was volunteering at one of the Women in Aviation NGOs run by Urifilwe Ludabo. Maybe some of you will know. And every time there were career awareness programs, Mulalo was there. At that time, she was still busy with her training at SAA Technical. And I mentioned to her that one day I want to manufacture aircraft parts and components, particularly fasteners. And it happened that part of her training was within the department. She invited me at SAA to come and see these fasteners that I'm interested in. Fast forward years.
You're literally saying, don't wait for anyone to create it. This is what I have done, and you have evidence. I'm sure Mlalo and her generation, they say she has receipts, guys. Like there's receipts for what she's talking about. Thank you so much for that. All right, Moira, let's talk to you in regards to the same question in regards to your space. I like what you said earlier on, that you are an industry expert. Yeah. Being an industry expert means that you have, over time, experience. You can see what's happening now, where we come from, and where we're going. But is there space, and what role can women play in the space that you are in? And you can also answer that from your hat at SANWIT as well.
Okay. So when I look at the role women can play in the transport industry, when I look at all the opportunities, we women are very good at being consumers in our own industry. We should stop playing safe, and we must take that plunge. When the reason why I can claim to be an industry specialist is because I was treated like an outsider because I was a woman. In 2007, when government said to the taxi industry, you can't continue going rogue and think that you're an authority unto yourself. Women need to be inculcated into this industry. We all know that the industry is oversaturated, so there were no permits to be had. So you either had to wait for your husband to die. Yes. Alternatively, if you didn't have a permit in your name, you're never going to have one in your name. So I said to myself, you know what? I come from 16 years of being in logistics, imports and exports. And I have acquired so many skills. I had to teach so many people. When I started in that space, I started with a one-man business. It was called Good Hope Sales. When I left that company, it was Stride Investments, having warehouses all over South Africa. I promise you, whatever you're wearing, something comes from Stride Investments. And that is part of my legacy. The leadership, the store managers, the area managers, they all came through my hands. But in the taxi industry, the more they pushed me down, the more they tried to push me out, I showed them that the reason why a rubber duck is called a rubber duck is because it's yellow. You can't miss it. The more you suppress it, the higher it pops up. And that is the role we as women need to play in every sphere of our lives. Not just in the taxi industry, even in our homes. Our children need to be nurtured. They need to know that they're the best they can be. And with our nurturing and our mentoring, they can achieve that.
Okay, here we go. My mic was off. Thank you so much, Moira, for that. So let me come back to Leshwana. Let me hear from you in regards to the role and impact that women can have in the space from the point of view of where you sit at SANWIT.
I think it was Miss Mpumi Mpofu. When she gave us the presentation earlier on, she said if you leave 50% of the population out of the equation, how are you going to succeed? So we all know that if we look at our population, women dominate. But if women are left out, or if women make decision not to be at that boardroom table, not to pull up that chair, not to go to the canteen and pull the chair and sit there, because your opinion, your technical expertise, that which you are afraid to speak up in the boardroom is needed. That's the solution that's needed. Now maybe the background that I need to give that I didn't give in the introduction is that I come from a mining industry, finance industry, forestry industry. Now I'm in transport.
Wow.
And if you look at all those industries, they are predominantly male-dominated industries. And for your voice to be heard, you need to speak up. In that boardroom, don't be afraid. I know it's difficult. I was scared to speak. I'm still scared that I'm going to give a presentation. It's always scary to take that first step, but take it. Because I always say that you went to the same universities, you are all civil engineers, you all qualified in different fields. You went into the same class with that male who believes that the position is theirs. So if you go with the same attitude, somebody will recognize and somebody will nurture that and they will give you the opportunities. I'll give you, for example, at SANWIT. I only started acting in November. And most of the time I find myself alone as a woman in the room. Either with other roads authorities, with the department, internally within SANWIT. And I made a decision to say, every opportunity that arises, nothing that I will sign if it's not women. So every opportunity, the recent one was representatives in the World Road Association, which is PIAC. I said, from now on, only women will represent us. In any other new task force that's formed at World Road Association, it would be women. And now we are doing outreach for scholarships and bursaries. And when I looked at the stats, they didn't make sense. And I said, I want to be on the field, I want to go to that rural school, I want to identify that black girl who have the capability to be able to study civil engineering, accounting, give them bursaries. One life that you're going to change of a rural girl, you will empower the entire community. And that's exactly what it's all about, creating opportunities for women. And another thing is that women who are already in the industry, in the business, to be more structured, because men are. If you look at 2010 and the scandal around construction, they are very structured, they work well together, and that's what we need as women, is to, I was telling the deputy minister when we were eating that I work for SANWIT. I joined SANWIT in 2017. I will be honest with you, I've never heard of SANWIT, never. But I have already met one forum of women, and I said, where are other women? Because I need to tap into those forums to be able to identify what do we have in terms of expertise, pool of expertise that, okay, if we want to empower women, this is the center where you can pull up women. And we need to be more structured, we need to work together so that we grow. As you grow, you pull another one up. As you grow, you pull another one up. And that's what I think we can be able to create opportunities. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. for that. So I'm going to move on to Tebo. A question for you in your space, and I think already you got challenged by the environment that you found yourself in. Now that you are woke, as the kids would say, you are aware of what needs to be done. What do you think in the space that you're in needs to be done for women to be able to access the opportunities, and how can those be created?
Thank you very much. I think, the role of women in society and in how we drive the economy is really underestimated. So I've lived in many places, but I like saying Ethiopia remains my best experience about living outside, and I'm going to go back to something that relates to that. Whenever you walked along or you drive within the rural space, you'd find women carrying wood on the back. And every time you looked at them, we would say, can you imagine if there was a service or a facility that could help them transport all this wood on their back? So as my career evolved into planning, infrastructure planning, and etc., I do think that you become a little bit more conscious. So what I really enjoyed about my experience and the awareness that was created by the time I spent there was that you suddenly became aware of the needs of a woman in terms of transport, public transport provision. In the taxi industry, how many toilets are at a taxi rank? When you are having your cycle and you really want to change your pad, what do you do when you're at a taxi rank? There's nothing. Because we never think about women when we think about the facilities that we provide. And because, again, I think I'll relate it to the work I do, being the regulator, the railway regulator, our services are really geared towards the public, if you look at passenger rail, particularly in terms of PRASA. But if you think about it in general, we don't make facilities for that, for women. We don't plan, even when we plan the infrastructure, we don't think about them. If you want to breastfeed, there's nowhere to breastfeed, unless you are sitting in a lounge at the airport. But generally, that facility is not provided for. And I think us being in the sector, taking the various roles, we are able to influence how infrastructure is developed in a way that is friendly for women. One of the things you think about is when you plan transport services for buses, you'll see in the morning there's peak because everybody's going to work. But in some communities, women don't work. They actually travel off peak, but there's no service. There's no provision for that. So I think for me, it's just the general, what a woman brings to the table, even as we plan the infrastructure for SANWIT, for whoever, is understanding the needs of a woman in a way that I think men don't. Being the CEO of the Railway Safety Regulator today, my biggest plight, we've been doing some research as an organization around personal safety on trains. What actually shocked me is the abuse that female drivers, female maintainers are exposed to. So when we look at the stats, it shows that a lot of the crime actually, or security issues, are at the stations, but actually the people who are targeted are the workers, women disproportionately so. Sexual violence against women is at a rate that I think is unacceptable, and we do need to do something about it. Of course, that is from a planning point of view, but also in terms of maybe opportunities, I would raise that because that was directly the question. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk about the violence that women are exposed to. But when you look at the economic opportunities, so you've said you don't know SANWIT. I've known SANWIT for many years, but what we haven't done really well is to profile the work we do. What has SANWIT achieved? What are the numbers? Where are the numbers? Who's monitoring? Who's actually telling the stories? Because until people know about the work that SANWIT does, until people know about the opportunities, you'll never get the traction to pull people into the sector. They try once, and then we start saying, I know DM will ask me, Tebo, how many tenders have you given to women? If you go into the detail, you'll find I've given them catering tenders. So I also, at a personal level, have taken the opportunity when I see a woman in the sector, I tell them about the opportunities, I give them advice on where to go, but I think we need to be a little bit more deliberate about that in ensuring that we create opportunities for people to access the sector, but also to access the opportunities. I think we need to profile SANWIT a bit better. We need to talk about it, what they do, and obviously demonstrate the successes. I mean, there are successes in SANWIT, but nobody really knows about them unless they come to this conference. Thank you.
So I have one specific sector question that came from the floor, and I want to encourage everyone in the floor, if you have a question, please draft them and bring them to me. So this one is going to go to Moira, because you're at SANWIT and you are within the taxi space. So they're saying that the Uber Taxify sector is an industry that is gaining momentum. Women are also trying to venture in. Risks, though, are high for them, and often they lose interest, yet it is such a powerful industry. What can be done for them, and what form of support can be there? Western Cape member of leadership of SANWIT, and this question is coming from Ms. Buyogas. She sent it to me, so I don't know if you can answer that.
So with regards to e-hailing, because Uber is just a service provider, okay? Uber is a service provider, Bolt is a service provider, but they in e-hailing. And what we used to know as the meter taxi industry, they also in e-hailing. In other words, last mile home. So there are so many opportunities for women in e-hailing. And one of the opportunities that I know of is that there's a South African woman in the Western Cape that has designed an app that's going live from the 1st of October. And if I have my way, every province will have an e-hailing service that's dedicated to transport women and children if that is their choice. If they say, I want a female driver to be driving me, then that facility must be available. So the opportunity is open for anybody that's in e-hailing, that's got an operating license in that space, to venture into that space. And I think it's going to make a lot of female consumers in that space feel so much safer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think what I'm going to ask now, as we wrap up, is today we're here because of the South African Network for Women in Transport, and you are women in transport in different sectors of it. So, Leshona, I'm going to start with you, and this is because you said that you've been in the space and you were not informed about the work that they do. So the challenge is that there lies an opportunity as well. Is that when you leave here today, what it is that you're going to do in your sector to advance the cause of SANWIT, or what role you think SANWIT can play in helping women, achieve and unlock the potential to sustainability for women and empowerment in that space.
Thank you. I think, as I said, when we were discussing over lunch, and I said, I don't think there's representation from our organization within SANWIT. But I have had meetings with SAWIC, from SANROL directly to SAWIC. And during that discussion, or during that meeting that we had, I wanted to have exposure to more women, because I could see the benefit that SAWIC is getting from SANROL. But I said, how can we be able to reach a lot of women who can be able to join the construction industry? And knowing that all of you know that all of us as entities of government, we are creatures of legislation. So we have to follow right protocols to be able to appoint women. So a forum like, or an organization like SANWIT will be able to give us the profile of different women in construction industry and for us to be able to tap into it. So when I leave, you're asking me now, when I leave now, so you said at the beginning there's a challenge and then there's opportunity. So the challenge for me is to make sure that SANROL is represented. I tap into SANWIT, I see what SANWIT can be able to offer me as the entity that reports to them, to be able to empower women or forums that are sitting under the umbrella of SANWIT. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to you, Tabo.
So when I live here, look, if you look at the railway safety regulator and the host of the sort of services we provide, mainly around, within the core business environment. As I said, you do, I think we're sitting at about the 30% women procurement, but I actually do believe that there's a lot more that we can do. Over the years, we've struggled as the regulator to identify how we can train young people. I usually say, and it's a very controversial view, I usually say that it's difficult for the regulator to train a young engineer. You can never get out of the university and come to RSR and find a design, because that's not what we do. We actually oversee what everybody else is doing. So ideally, you know, in the old system where we used to have school inspectors, it was retired principals and older people who come and sit at the back of a class, because that's the nature of an inspector. But what we have actually been doing, and I think I feel very passionate about, is to identify those in training, particularly within the railway industry, where we can work with the bigger operators, Transnet, PRASA. We would be willing to actually pay for them to be there while we allow, I see my head of HR is thinking, where is it in policy? Why are you saying this? Did you put it in our policy? But it's something that I have been talking about in terms of ensuring that we continue to empower young women who actually want to access the railway sector. And I think it is generally very difficult to get into the sector because in itself, there's a view that it's heavy and it's more difficult for women to get into that sector. But I think for me, at the best we can do, and this is something I had people talking about training that they're doing, is to try and see if we cannot fund those learners to be able to give them workplace experience somewhere else that we are not able to provide while we actually fund them to do it. That's one of the things I think we can do.
Great stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That is Tafarahai, Railway Safety Regulator, CEO, chatting to us there. Okay, so I have got, I'm going to go to you, Sibongile, at the end. Same question.
Okay, thank you once again. For the aerospace industry, I'm going to leave here with an opportunity of bringing more women to participate and become members of SANWIT. Not only participate in that, but women that will play a vital role in making sure that we give input in policy, we give input in the regulations within the industry. Aerospace is a highly regulated environment, and we find that sometimes opportunities, it's difficult to access opportunities because of the regulations, international regulations for that matter, that we cannot do much about. But in terms of compliance, we need women to know and understand what compliance is all about. Secondly, there are investment opportunities that one comes across. Aviation is a global, operates in a global space. Once we formulate ourselves and we have a group, a formidable group within SANWIT that can take up investment opportunities not only in South Africa, but globally, I think through the vehicle of SANWIT, it will be possible. If you go alone for those opportunities, chances of settling or getting that contract is very difficult. But I believe that if one is organized through an entity like, or a group like SANWIT, it will be possible. Another issue that I would like us to look at is the BBBE Charter for the transport sector. I think it's imperative that we play a role in making sure that we get the charter to work so that women can have access to opportunities locally and abroad. I think that's all that I have.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies, for that. I appreciate it. I gave you guys 30 minutes. I think I gave you like 7, 8 minutes each, divided by 4. My math is not bad. Yeah, so if you say they spoke long, no, they shared 30 minutes. So each got 8 minutes. I'm going to get your gift presentations, and then you guys can graciously move from my stage. There was a question for Leshamanala, but I think she answered the question, but I'm going to read the question so that you get the context, so that you say I don't read the questions. You are acting now, I'm giving time for them to bring your gifts. You are acting now, given the opportunity to apply, would you take it? And what would be your strategy to involve Black women in the procurement plan project of building key road bridges? I think you kind of answered what you could do, right? Or you want to get into it?
I think in terms of what SANRO can do for women, I'm jumping into my presentation. There are a lot of opportunities. As you know, SANRO manages the National Road Network. So every tender that is advertised at SANRO, anything above 50 million, 30% of that should be subcontracted to designated groups, and that includes women. And when I looked at the stats, and it's in my presentation as well, 48% in the previous financial year of all the tenders that SANRO issued went to majority-owned Black women. So that is I always look at it and I'm like, that is a big achievement. But if you go in to do the proper analysis of that 48%, you don't see women on the forefront. You go into the actual project, you don't see women. So there is something that is not going right in the ownership. And I think it's up to us women not to sell out and just be used as fronts. So if there's anything that I'm interested can apply, but I'm just caretaking.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, ladies. I'm glad I asked that question after all. You can do the presentation, and then I'm going to call on the next panel. Thank you.
Oh.
Well done, ladies. On the floor, you are also free. If you want to ask questions, you're welcome. There will be
through from the floor that are for you. So I don't know if protocol allows me to request you. No? You'll answer them from there. Okay, please can we provide DM with a microphone? Okay, anyone from ATN? I think we keep it moving. And then we give DM the mic for... Okay, guys, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. So we're going to start the same way. You introduce yourself, your business in the industry, and then we get to hear from you. Thank you so much. We can start with you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'd like to first thank the Honorable Deputy Minister for inviting me to the roundtable. That means looks like it's on. Still can't hear. I don't know. Looks like it's on.
It is on. It's just a very tricky thing. I think just hold it.
Oh, okay. First, I would like to thank the Deputy Minister of Transport for the invite. Oh, it's working. For the invite to be part of the roundtable discussion today. Okay. Hi.
Sound guys coming to sort it out. Sorry, apologies for that. And one of the challenges is because the mics that we're using is for streaming, so we can't swap them around. But let's see what they can do. Okay, that's better. We'll work with that.
That's fine. I'd like to take this opportunity first to thank the Minister, Deputy Minister of Transport for the invite.
Where have you been?
Can we try it? Test them now? Should we? Okay, let's try again. Or maybe let's try your mic first. Over here. Let's try your mic. Is your mic working? Yeah. Something is happening with that mic as well.
Let me check.
Is it fine?
1, 2.
Okay, maybe introduce yourself in the meantime.
1, 2. Thank you very much, DM, and all protocol observed. My name is Blondie Wahamotswadira. I am an interim SANWIT secretary. My businesses began in 2002, when I started operating with buses that I'm currently operating in. And my major concern for me to be in the transport industry, am I audible enough? It's a long story because during my high school time, I grew up in a very deep rural area in Northwest. And I had to wake up at 3 o'clock. And in our village, we had only one bus that was passing at 4 o'clock in the morning. And the bus was going to town. So I had to get the bus to school. And it was quite of a challenge because waking up at 3 o'clock, boarding on a bus at 4 o'clock, it was a challenge, and coming back home at 7 o'clock. We used to call it Besia Babereki because that was the only bus that was taking employees from the village town. So it got into my head, and I started wondering what is it that is happening in our village as the government only providing one bus for the entire 5 villages, because the bus had to come from somewhere and pass in our village. So that's when I got into the transport industry. But where I am currently, I'm transporting learners. I'm specializing in transporting learners, ferrying them to schools. I am not transporting learners in urban areas because my passion is in deep rural areas. So I am currently operating in deep rural areas, transporting those learners who are in need of a transport, the learners who are traveling more than 5 kilometers a day. Because it is quite a challenge that learners are traveling a distance, and it's a challenge to our girl children who got raped into the paths while they're going to the school. So that's where my passion is lying currently.
Thank you so much. We also are joined by Lebogang Letswalo from SCM Coach, and she's also the director there. You can share your story with us. You have a mic there. I am co-sound today. No.
All right, ladies, my name is Lebole Tswalo. I am a supply chain coach. I represent an organization called Awiska. So we mentor and coach supply chain professionals and entrepreneurs, youth, women as well, in all the modes of transportation. So for my sins, I've spent the past 23 years in supply chain management, 17 years in corporate, and the 7 years I've spent really trying to transform this transport sector of ours. So my passion is really around mentoring, coaching, and really transforming the transport sector, ensuring women are capacitated within the industry for all the modes of transport. We have mentored more than 370 women in all the modes of transport, road, rail, maritime, and aviation, and helping them get access to the industry. And we participate in the Africa Free Continental Trade Area in ensuring that all of us as women are able to get access into that market, as we understand that logistics is the foundation of AFTA. So I'm really looking forward to engaging in this conversation. Thank you.
My name is Tarangubane. My background is in the transport and logistics business, having started working for one of the blue chip companies in the country that was big in the transport sector, and then moved to Prasa. I was at Prasa for 13 years. I think some of you know, more especially the Department of Transport, as well as people that I've interacted with through SANWIT and the work and the women in Braille. I'm looking forward to the discussions because I'm sitting here today wearing a different hat from the hat that I was wearing a couple of years back. Now I'm in business, I'm a small entrepreneur. It's going to be very interesting now to give feedback. I used to receive the feedback as an executive from the small businesses. Now I'm sitting in a different chair where now I'm a small business and I want to give feedback to the decision makers.
Talk about a 360. Okay, I've just realized that I've also been asked to ask HOD for the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport, Darian Buckley, HOD in the room. Yes, no? Darian Buckley? Sorry, I looked into you because Caucasian. So I don't know. Are they here? Darren? No? Okay, they're not here, so I can proceed. Sorry for that, I just needed to. Okay, so, ladies, I think the questions really are about the work that SANWIT is doing and how it can achieve that work, and the work that the Department of Transport wants to see happening in our country, and the role that women can play based on the spaces that you are in. How do you think the experiences, the ideas and knowledge that was shared here today, based on your experiences in the and where you sit in the sector, how do you think we can be able to overcome these challenges and access these opportunities that are there? Or are there opportunities in the space? What is it that women bring according to you, based on the conversation that has transpired today? So should I start with you?
Yes. I am right. As women gathered together in one roof together today, the only thing that we have to do as women is to work together, irrespective of our different modes of transport, and we must unite as women because we are all here. We are all here speaking one language, which is transport. And working in silos is definitely dividing us as women in transport. If we can try by all means that as from today, we should try by all means to disseminate information to each other, to take this whatever that is happening today further, then we will sizonqoba bafazi. And the other thing that I would like us to concentrate on as women who are in transport related, we shouldn't forget that we are capable, and women opportunities shouldn't be shared with men, because that's where we are making the mistake. Whatever opportunities that we get, we tend to be weakened by taking our opportunities to men, because we think that we are incapable, of which that is wrong. And harmonization will keep us together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. For me, before I respond to other opportunities, you also asked the question around how are we going to overcome the challenges. Out of all the discussions that we are having, let's talk a bit about these challenges. If you look at the transport sector, as we said, the other areas are regulated, barriers to entries are very high. In establishing ourselves in this industry, you need to have money. Highly technical as well, so you need to have that technical expertise to be able to operate, and a level of soft skills is also needed. I always said when I was in corporate that, gee, you really need to have that a level of apathy, energy to be in the transport sector because it's highly operational. Funding is an issue. We have to understand that some of the challenges speaks to permits, which are very expensive in the industry. Let me give you an example because our industry is very huge. I mean, road, rail, maritime, aviation, pipelines, as it is. If you were to look at the transport sector, let's look at road freight. You want to have a truck. We're talking about an asset, a truck and trailer that's going to cost you 3.5 million, just as you are starting. I'm a trucker, by the way. Besides these heels that you see me wearing, I am into trucking. 3.5 million, just having that one asset. There's insurances, there's permits, there's GIT insurances, and a whole lot of other things that are required from yourself as an entrepreneur to comply with before you even start. So as we start, either as a cooperative or as an SMME, will we have that cash flow available as a working capital to start with our businesses? So we have to start looking at those things as a start. So those are some of the challenges that we have to start with. Now, opportunities exist. So if you are not able to comply with the basic things that I'm talking about, will you be able to access the opportunities? You won't be able to achieve that. So it's costly. Now let's also talk about from the labor perspective with the bargaining council. You know how expensive it is for an SMME to comply as a trucker being part of the bargaining council. So that challenge is one of the things that we have to overcome. Yes, we have to comply, but as an SMME, Deputy Minister, probably some of the things that we have to look at in terms of how we enable small entrepreneurs to penetrate the industry. Now let's talk about the opportunities. Yes, opportunities exist within the industry. So I always advise entrepreneurs as a coach that look at the value chain. The value chain is very long. And let me go back. I'll revert back to road because I can't use examples for all the other modes of transport. If I use a truck is a truck because it's got a horse and a trailer. But a truck has got tires. A truck requires a truck stop, truck wash. You need fuel, isn't it? You need a whole lot of other things if you look at the truck. So sometimes if you are looking at an opportunity within the transport sector, ladies, don't just look at owning a truck because the margins are very low. It's 5% if you are doing well. So don't just get excited about getting a truck. The margins are very low. You start making money when you have more trucks. So look at the primary and also the ancillary services that goes hand in hand with just being in trucking. If you look at, there's Operation Pakisa, if you look at the maritime, from the boats, from the cruises as well. If you're in the taxi industry, start thinking around how you incorporate your taxi industry as well with the, what do I call it, with delivery services. I mean, parcel in terms of courier services. So we have to be creative in terms of opportunities. And always remember that with everything that we are doing, we can also co-create opportunities because transport sector is one of these sectors within the 10 sectors that are driving the economy. 319 billion that has been spent within the transport sector. So where are we? 5% of us as women that are contributing to that. Thank you.
For me, there are a number of things that I want to touch on, tapping from the experience that I have when I was sitting on the other side and the experiences that I'm having today from where I'm seated. I look at SANWIT, there are a number of areas that we have learners who are still in school, who are struggling maybe to understand what the transport sphere is all about. And I think SANWIT can play a role there to give information to the learners in terms of the opportunities that are available going to tertiary, what courses they can do. I mean, they can do commerce, Bachelor of Commerce in transport, in logistics, and so forth. Those are some of the things that we can part to the learners so that they are able to make those decisions to venture into the transport environment. Secondly, then we have students who are already now at tertiary institutions who have registered for these courses, but then they don't know much about the Department of Transport and the various transport modes that are available. So SANWIT can play a role there as well to talk to the universities and talk about aviation, talk about the likes of SANRAL, RSR, PRASA, and so forth. And then you have graduates who've just completed their studies, who are who are seeking employment. Then SANWIT can play a role there as well, working with the Department of Transport and the entities within the Department of Transport to open opportunities for those students. There's nothing as frustrating as going to a university, you complete your qualification, then you're sitting at home. And one of the things that I did in my previous life, we used to get a lot of students from UJ, VEDS, because we are Gauteng based, getting learnerships. I said, no, this must stop. I told the HR department, we are not going to take any student from UJ. We are not going to take any student from VEDS, because if you look at it, the balance of scale is not fair. All the big corporates, they recruit from those institutions. You have students from University of Zululand. You have students from University of Fort Hare. You have students from Walter University in the Eastern Cape, who none of us, even if you look at the SOEs, they don't go and recruit there. And most of the students in those areas are from the rural areas. So what are we saying? Are we saying they don't deserve to work for PRASA, they don't deserve to work for SANRAL, they don't deserve to? So we need to look at ourselves. And I think that is an area that we need to look at, because those are the students who are coming from the impoverished areas, they are coming from the rural areas, and we need to make